Hello, beautiful moms and entrepreneurs. My name is Charisse Walker, and I'm your host of the Unbreakable Mompreneurs podcast. This is a place where we come together to learn, grow, and inspire. So sit back, relax, and let's get started. Hello, Unbreakable Mompreneurs. Welcome to another episode with Charisse Walker as the host. And today we are talking with Kelly Leardon, and she has a lot to teach us about being an entrepreneur. So Kelly, why don't you introduce yourself?
Thank you, Charisse. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Kelly Leardon. I run Walk Like Warriors. My name, Kelly, means warrior woman, so it seemed fitting. I help female entrepreneurs be fearless and focused in their business. And essentially what Walk Like Warriors' purpose is to help women build the business of their dreams without sacrificing their personal life. I went through some pretty extreme burnout, and helping women basically have success in those two areas is what makes my heart beat faster and what lights me up.
I love that. And how did you get started in this?
Great question. Totally accidentally. So I became a certified director of operations, which it's like a fancy way of just saying I come into businesses. Typically, they would hire me fractionally, which was like part-time. I worked in many different businesses, and they were usually in some troubled waters, mass chaos, or they had a major project that was coming undone at the seams, or they felt like the business was scotch taped together and they needed someone to really come alongside the CEO, the visionary, and get things working and streamlined. And so I've always loved that. I've been doing that. I've worked with small business owners for years and years and years. And I started Walk Like Warriors in the summer of 2023, so not too long ago. And I started it as a passion project. I realized I'm helping all these businesses scale to multi seven figures, and I don't have anything of my own per se to show for it. When you're a director of ops, a lot of your work just flows to you through word of mouth. So it wasn't really necessary for me to have some massive social media presence. I wasn't doing any of that. So Walk Like Warrior started actually as a passion project, as a faith-based page. And I talked a little bit about burnout, started talking more and more about time management. People got the vibe that I was like mass chaos in my brain. Some people would say ADHD. And so I started sharing about that. And then when people found out that I was a certified director of operations, all of a sudden it was like they were coming out of the woodwork. Talk about this, talk about business. I don't know what I'm doing. Nobody taught me. I've had success, but I actually behind the scenes, I'm terrified if somebody knew that I don't actually know what I'm doing, I would die. And so I just started doing a lot of free coaching. I had a little bit of a crisis in the fall that my husband, God love him, helped walk me through, because I was like, I don't know what to do with this page. They're pulling me in this direction, and I'm trying to just make this a free thing. I show up and I give and I serve. And he just said, Kelly, just lean into that for a few months. The worst that could happen is it blows up in your face. The best that could happen is maybe this is your answer to, I was getting really burned out on the director of ops stuff, just working inside of so many businesses. It was really draining. So all of a sudden, and this is what I mean by accidentally. I think it was in October, the first week of October, 2023, someone was in my DMs, will you coach me privately? And I was like, I'm sorry, I don't do that. I coach my director of ops clients, but you know, in my head, I'm thinking that a solopreneur can't afford a fractional. I just didn't understand. There was so I told them no. I still don't know who that was. God love her. I feel so bad. A week later, somebody else totally unrelated messaged me, and I said no. And then my business coach said to me, why would you be telling them no? Why don't you just do it? And I was like, well, I don't really do that kind of thing. One thing led to another. By the end of October, I just on Instagram stories one day said, hey, if anyone's interested in coaching, I'm going to open up my calendar and take 2. Had filled them within a couple days. Fast forward to December, I decided to take a full roster, which for me is 11, filled that within a week. Wow. And then was like, maybe I should just do this. And I'm the kind of person that I will just jump off the side of the cliff and hope that the net appears before me. And it did. So I launched a group coaching program January 1, and I've been coaching female solopreneurs happily, gratefully ever since. But when I say accidentally, I truthfully mean I know how to build 6 and 7 figure businesses, but what happened here was like broke the mold because I wasn't trying to do it. I was just showing up and serving.
And I think that's, there's 2 key points you talked about. First of all, like in all the episodes, everyone I talk to and interview, they always mention a coach. And I cannot stress enough that you need a coach. because sometimes it's a different perspective or you can bounce things off of. And sometimes our loved ones aren't really our champions. They tend to talk us out of what we really should be doing. So a coach can actually help guide you if they're specific in those things. The second thing I heard you talk about is that you were serving, not selling, that all you were trying to do is just help people. And then that turned into what you are doing now. So congratulations on that. It works every time, it's all these theories and things that just constantly go into play that I see day in and day out. You had mentioned that you were at your daughter's wedding, and tell us what happened that day.
This is hard for me to talk about. I get emotional. Certainly when I started going on podcasts, I didn't expect to talk about this as much. So basically, I was at the time working in corporate. And I always say, if you're an addict, the best addict to be in corporate is a workaholic, because you will be rewarded quickly and well for that addiction. And it was pretty bad. It was affecting my marriage. I was working upwards of 70 hours a week, 80 hours a week. There was weeks where I would go several days without seeing my husband and children, because I would leave when it was dark and get home when it was dark. I'm not proud, clearly, of this part of my story. And it was leading to a lot of tension in my home. And it was like work was rewarding me and giving me raises and giving me the promotions of my dreams. But at home, it felt like things were just getting pulled apart at the seams. And it was on my daughter's wedding day, and we didn't do a limo because she had chosen a venue that was several hours from our house. So I had all the bridesmaids and the bride in my car, and we were driving up there. And, they got the music blasting, and they're all so cute. They've got their dresses on their laps. And it was just like such an exciting time. And my phone rang, and it was the CEO. And I knew that I shouldn't answer the phone, but I did. And he was blowing up about something. And he essentially offered me like the job that I just would have died to have. And I'm trying to talk him off the ledge. And what he was offering me, that position was held by one of my very best friends.
Oh.
And I wouldn't just do that. I couldn't do that to anybody that I knew and loved. But part of it too was I met eyes with my daughter in the rearview mirror, and I just knew that I could never take back that I answered the phone, that all of that happened. I can never take that time back. And so that was really the straw that broke the back. I just knew as soon as we pulled into the parking lot. I didn't mean to make you emotional too. No. I have so much shame around this story, but I believe that shame lives in darkness, like mold loves dark places, right? And so by pulling it into the light, I hope that from my shame and my brokenness and all the horrible choices that I made over choosing things over my family, that it's what drives me with my business today. And I knew when we pulled into the parking lot that I was going to give my notice. And so, she forgave me. I think as moms, we have a harder time forgiving ourselves for those choices. And what really gets me is that I was so wrapped up in it, I didn't realize how sick I was until I got away from it. And so that was really a defining moment in my life. We're both crying for the people listening. We're both sitting here crying. What's happened, and again, it's so painful. It's like sharing your worst sin with the whole wide world. It's like letting somebody read your diary when you were just a complete idiot, and you'd be mortified if anyone saw it. And then I go on podcasts and talk about it. But I believe that shame loves darkness, and that healing is found in the light. So the more I talk about it, it's helping me to feel, I don't think that shame is always a horrible thing. When we do something wrong, I would hope that we do feel bad about it. I mean, I do, but not letting that shame define me, but rather for it to be a foundational part of why I coach and lead the way that I coach and lead, because the female entrepreneurs of today, there's not that much difference between that CEO and the kind of CEO they are to themselves.
And I think, first of all, you shouldn't shame yourself, because, you were doing something that you enjoyed and you loved. And so I think I had a conversation with somebody recently on the last podcast that for her, it is about work because her husband stays home. And so she's okay. So there's people, you just have to be your authentic self and good for who you are. And the choices that you make, they're not good or bad. It's just what can you learn from them? And I don't know why I'm so emotional today, because I felt that, and I was that working mom who, going through a divorce, I'd have to get up and work my tail off, and then I'd put the kids to bed and I'd go back to work until 5 in the morning. And then I'd come home, take 2 or 3 hours to sleep and do it all over again because I was a single mom. And so it sucked. There's no other word to say that. And the guilt, because of that. And so I think that that's where, when we talk about this podcast, the Unbreakable Mompreneurs, that exact example is you became true to yourself. And for you, your children were more important than a career. For me, there was a couple of years ago where it took off. My real estate business was crazy, and I was able to retire my husband so that he could stay home, and that was great. But you're right, you don't get that time back with your kids. And for me, what was the most important thing? It is my children. And so, but yet I've never heard the word being sick because of an addiction, but it's an addiction to work. And it's like, why am I not getting that same payoff with being at home and just doing whatever? And my husband makes enough that I don't have to work, but I love to. And so last year, I actually did take some time off where I didn't work as much, and it's because I didn't have to. And so for the first time in my entire life, I finally got what I'd always wanted. And that was to be able to be home when my kids were home and to be able to be there and to put my house together because it was a total disaster, and so it was all these things that I've never, ever really been able to have the opportunity to do, but it was fantastic. And so that's a hard decision though. I mean, how did you feel when you chose, you know what, this isn't worth it anymore? Because clearly you were very successful in pulling into a parking lot. How did you work through those feelings of, I don't need this anymore, I can move on?
It was really hard.
Mm-hmm.
It was really hard. And guilt is a really powerful emotion.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing I've noticed from coaching men versus women, men don't have guilt like that. Women do. And this is not bashing men. We are biologically and intrinsically different. We're wired differently. And so when a man is flying away from his family for 6 days, it's unlikely that his first emotion is guilt.
Yeah.
For a woman, that is her top emotion. It's probably the only emotion she feels. Mm-hmm. And so I don't think it's wise to argue something that it seems like it's the way we're wired. It's more, what do we do with that? Is it true guilt or is it guilt we're putting on ourselves? Certainly, I understand that I am very blessed in that I have choices. A single mom going through divorce, no, you don't have. So anything I've said previous to this point is not, I don't want anyone crying in their car and being like, I'm choosing the wrong thing. If you don't have a choice, you're not choosing the wrong thing. You're choosing the right thing. It's to keep a roof over your kid's head. It's to provide for your family. I was able to step down into being able to run my own business. Mm-hmm. Part of my story that I've never shared on any other podcast before is I basically took a massive demotion when I started my own company because I went back to virtual assistant work, which is work that mad respect virtual assistants. I actually feel like if you have a good one, they're almost better than a COO because they'll call you on your crap. They know more about you, your business, your family than your spouse probably does. So it just was like a safe little nest for me to kind of climb back into and lick my wounds. But I was very dissatisfied with that work. Like 3 months in, I had everybody whipped into shape. I was coaching the CEOs. I was telling them their project plans, their marketing maps. But that was just part of my story, just sort of shift into, oh my word, what did I do? Well, I know what I can do. This work comes naturally. I piled up 10 clients like nothing, replaced my income within a couple months, but I was working a lot and I was doing work that was very dissatisfying to me. But I think my mind needed it to prove, Kel, you can build businesses from the ground up. You've done it for other people. You've done it because I had been a professional photographer before. Part of my story is my husband and I have moved almost every 2 years. Every time he's gotten promoted, we've moved. So I've had to start over many, many times. So I'm kind of like a serial entrepreneur. I'm blessed that I have that skill set, but I think that I sort of needed to like lick my wounds, prove to myself that I can make really good money. But then on paper, I'm like, dude, first of all, my skill set is sorry. I have teenagers. That's why that word slipped out. I didn't mean to say that. You're not a dude. And I know that, but I kind of had to do some tough love with myself where I'm like, this is not what you've spent your career building. You're doing it because it's safe and you're doing it because there is no risk to you whatsoever. And so then I was able to sort of explore, it's really risky to put yourself out there as a director of ops where it is your business. Somebody else is not employing you. So if things go wrong, there's nobody that, when you're in a corporate America setting, there's a whole lot of people who can take blame for a whole lot of stuff. When it's your business and you're the front runner, that felt way safer to go backward 10 steps on my business journey. Again, I'm not saying a VA is beneath me. I'm saying skill set wise, I'd invested a lot of money into different certifications and trainings and things. So I did that, but I needed that. I needed those stepping stones. So I would say for somebody taking that big leap, it's okay. If you need to play small for you, for your skill set for a while, it's okay. I think what the main thing I was sort of exploring was, how do I get clients? How do I manage my time? I was so afraid. This is a good word. I was afraid that there would be no difference between corporate America and working for myself, because like you, I love to work. I flippin' love to work. I love how it makes me feel. If I don't work, like we moved one time and we were only going to live there 3 months. It didn't make sense for me to get a job. I was reorganizing spice cabinets on the daily. Like I have too much energy and too much, it's kind of like a German Shepherd. Okay. I'm like a German Shepherd. If you don't give it jobs to do, it will destroy your ever loving house. It just will, because it has too much pent up energy inside of it, most of them. That's me. So working is good for me. But I think part of the work that I was stepping backward into was I was almost testing the water to see if I could handle it without it being the definition of who I was. And I think sometimes when we love our work, our value gets really tied tightly into what we can produce instead of our value being who we are. And a lot of that comes from our childhood or what we were rewarded for or praised for. Some of it can be things we were told by our parents or grandparents, like some people might be smarter or more beautiful or more successful, but doggone it, nobody outworks us. So in my mind, it was sort of like, okay, I got to outwork everybody. And that kind of became my reward system in and of itself, whether or not I got paid for it. And so being an entrepreneur is absolutely terrifying if you struggle with workaholism, because you can end up being worse than any corporate America boss. But the problem is you're being worse to yourself. No bathroom breaks, breakfast, lunch, and dinner at your desk, laptop in bed at 1 a.m. Like that's junk. And I needed to make sure that I was not going to resort back to that type of behavior.
And it's very true, because you can work and work and work, and you liken it to a hamster wheel, right? So how do you avoid the hamster wheel?
It's such a good question, because the expression, this is what I said on my group coaching call today, a woman's work is never done.
Right.
Add to that being an entrepreneur. This is a double negative, and I get that, but there will never not be things to do in your business. Never. Like it's always going to be, I want to do that other email service provider. I need to hire a VA. I need to get on YouTube. I want to start this. It never ends. And so, one of the things I teach is just a totally weird and random ADHD style time management system. But essentially what it is I leverage my director of ops background. I know people are yawning. Who cares? How does this apply to me? But there's areas of your business that need to be strong and healthy. And what I do is I take women through these areas, we capture everything, and then we chunk it. Monday, this is what I'm doing Mondays. Tuesday, this is what I'm doing Tuesdays. Wednesday. So, like batching tasks, but we batch our days. And what I train them to do is when it's like basically kind of like if someone pictures a spreadsheet with little drop down arrows, when that puppy is done, you are done. You are not going to be done at 1:30 in the afternoon, but you force yourself to work till 5 because is this corporate? Like you have an ankle monitor, you can't leave your desk? No, when you're done, you're done. And there's always going to be more to do, but getting off the hamster wheel means you define.
That's great.
This is my day. And when I've done my day, I'm done. See, we become entrepreneurs for more freedom, but what ends up happening is the actual opposite. And we have less freedom, more stress, and we think about work more than we ever did before. It seems like a really crappy exchange to me. So I'm trying to help women break out of that so that, like I said, when you've got a director of, when you have the strategy, let me just use the word, when you have the strategy of knowing what to do, and God love them, but all the women like, I don't know, I'm going to go on Canva and put more stuff on Instagram. No, that's not strategy. Stop spending all day doing that. Trying to go viral is not a business strategy. I'm sorry. It just plain ain't. It's like playing the lotto for your retirement plan. Like it might happen, might not happen. Well, if it doesn't happen, you are screwed, sweet sister. And I don't want you to be like that. So we learn what to do and when. That's the most important part of getting off the hamster wheel, right? We learn what to do and when, so that when you're following that system, your business is naturally growing because you're giving attention to all the areas, not just social media. And then, like I said, when you are done for the day, you're done. It's to me the most empowering thing to be able to say, I did it, and I don't have to add more onto it. That's how you break off the hamster wheel. How you break workaholism is that enough is enough, and knowing when to say it's enough. not following the corporate systems of you have to put in 40 hours to have had a successful week. So as a quick example, one of my coaching clients, she was working, catching up from the weekend. Her average Monday was 12 to 13 hours, 12 to 14 hours. Now she's working 4 hours on Monday.
Wow.
You'd think she'd be jumping up and down. She was like, what should I do? Should I start a new project? Like I was saying on a YouTube channel. And I'm like, what are you doing? I have you done at noon. Be done at noon. It's okay. You're getting more work done in a third of the time. So you should enjoy it. That's part of the beauty of being an entrepreneur, right?
That's great, because it's true. A lot of times you're working all the time. And I think something, because I have young kids, that I don't want them to see a laptop in my face all the time.
Yes.
Like my daughter to the doctor, it's a recurring thing we won't talk about because it'll make me cry, but I brought my computer and I started when we were in the waiting room, I opened it up and then I went, well, wait a second. I need to be spending time with her. And so I shut it and I never opened it again. And we played this matching game that was on the wall at the doctor. It's like those type of things that you have to start to realize, wait a second, this is more important and this is what we need to focus on. And so I think that, we really do. I like that. You're batching. That's a fantastic idea. That's a fantastic idea.
It is great. And I'm proud of you. It is not easy to catch ourselves and close the laptop. Like that's true freedom when you can catch yourself doing it and be like, no, this is not more important. This does not need to preempt my time here. And that's really the beautiful thing I love to see in my entrepreneurs is being present with their family, not a body in the room, but eyeball to eyeball is just so powerful for our kids to have that from us.
Yeah. Because, I have older kids and I have younger, and you don't get the time back. And so what are you going to regret in 5 years? And what are you going to remember? Are you going to remember all the little emails and everything you were doing? Or are you going to remember going and playing a game of Clue, or whatever it is?
Yes.
Your kids are going outside and taking a walk. Okay. So what is something that you would recommend to women who are starting out in their business? Because you've already given a ton of golden nuggets, something that most women just make a mistake of that you see a lot.
Yes. So you already touched on coaching. And even if you can't afford a coach, find a coach with a heart that gives, that you can follow and glean what you can for free. So that's like my quote unquote claim to fame. I coach for free in Instagram stories every single day. I pour out like what people have heard. This is what you get on my Instagram, because I know not everyone can afford a coach, but coaching is important. I always say Michael Phelps has a swim coach. If Michael Phelps has a coach, we all need coaches. It's just the way that it is. And why? Because we can't see things we're doing wrong. It takes an outsider's perspective. We have a really hard time encouraging ourselves and having accountability toward ourselves. So that's where that comes in. The other thing I would say, and this really brings it all full circle, is you need to define when you are and are not working. And I call it a never again list because of my experience with burnout. So I will never again work on a holiday. I will never again work on a weekend. And I will never again work after dinner. Never again. I will not do it. I don't care if I'm in a launch. I don't care if everything goes to pot. My website was down for 5 stinking days last week because someone was doing something on the back end, destroyed my website. It was down for 5 days. I did not work on that weekend. Sorry, my website was down. People got an error message that it was probably mimicking the real website and was stealing their identity. I didn't lose sleep. That's how far I've come, but it's taken me a while to get here. But knowing what you talked about at the end of your life, are you going to be more happy that you did XYZ or you played I Spy in the doctor's office waiting room with your child? You will look back and you will remember that moment. You will not remember the project you crushed. In fact, 2 years ago, you won't even remember the name of the project. And so defining and putting into your calendar what I call your big rocks, the things that are most important to you, you have to do that, because otherwise as entrepreneurs, we say we're going to do it, but we don't. And there will never be time and space for those things. So I have people put those in first. So to a brand new business owner, schedule that date night first. Don't hope that it happens if everything goes perfectly in your business. Schedule picnic on the family room floor with your 3-year-old. Schedule it digitally. It's an appointment that you keep with yourself, and then just make work filter around that. It will. I promise there is enough time for everything, but that is really important. And if I may be so bold, no one thinks they're going to go through burnout. we think that that is not going to happen to us. So, I mean, I see it on Instagram, people criticizing me on Instagram. Oh, there's a business coach who says, don't work nights and weekends. It is because I almost gave up everything, and then burnout knocked me completely out. And I've seen CEOs go through burnout. It isn't pretty. I saw somebody committed to a mental health institution from burnout. So we don't think it's going to happen to us, but if I may be so bold, is to trust the ones who have gone before you and do things to protect yourself. It's like how the 80-year-old says to her 16-year-old granddaughter, wear sunscreen, right? Like 16-year-old doesn't want to hear it. She thinks she's going to have perfect, flawless skin the rest of her life. So it's one of those things where I know that I say a lot of analogies. People are probably like, why is she talking about sunscreen? I don't know what happened here. We went off the rails. But what I'm saying is, no one thinks something bad is going to happen until it's too late to do anything about it. And that's where my passion is birthed from, is doing the wrong things and prioritizing the wrong things. And it's really easy to make the wrong choices as a shortcut now, promising ourselves that we're going to not do that later. It's just so much better for us to do the right thing from right out the gate.
And I have to echo that, because that was me last year. I did burn out from the year before. I was working so much, and driving so much. And I just decided I can't, like, what's more important right now? And for me, it was a great time because I learned to set boundaries. I can easily tell people that, isn't it? Like, you're your worst person to take advice from. But I set boundaries now. Like, some people that, oh, Charisse, we want to go look at this house or something. And I'm like, oh, okay, great. And I drop everything and I go, and then they're not even qualified. And so now it's like, you got to be qualified. You need to know it. I mean, there's specific things where I'm like, I'm sorry, like, until we have this information, I'm just not going to waste my time. And it works every time. And anytime that you think, like, I love that, it's no, I'm not going to work nights and weekends. And for me, definitely, like, Saturdays I do, but Sundays I don't. And so it's like, you are going to get more done because you're setting those boundaries. You're going to be more productive. Like, think about whenever you go on a vacation. Don't you get 100 things done before you go because you have to. And so if you set that boundary, like, okay, 3:00 is my cutoff time, you're going to work harder and faster. So fantastic advice. I love that. So how do people find you if they want to get a hold of you?
Walk Like Warriors, walklikewarriors.com, Walk Like Warriors on Instagram. It's got underscores under it on Instagram because someone else had that handle already, unfortunately. But it's true that I really do have a heart to serve. My heart is to help women not go through what I went through. And to your point, it's such a beautiful point. I believe in abundance mindset. So even if you have to say no to certain business because it's not in alignment with who you want to be, I believe that there's plenty of business that's going to flow your way because you made that decision. So we can rest in that and know nothing is worth sacrificing our family, our health, or our personal life for. Nothing. No amount of money at the end of our life is going to make up for making wrong choices today. And I hope that people will learn from my story and not do what I did and make better choices. And you won't have to live with that memory for the rest of your life like I will. But I hope that that memory serves to serve other people. And that's why I tell it, is in service to other people and in the hopes that somebody will make a different choice than I made.
I love that. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Unbreakable Mompreneurs, I hope that you actually take this lesson to heart because it's really easy to listen to. It's very hard to apply, but take it from two people who have actually been through it, have lived it. It is not worth the time that you're losing with your kids, with your family, with your spouse, or with your friends, whoever it is that you love. Make sure that you have your boundaries. Go ahead and make it a great day. See you later. Beautiful moms, remember, you are unbreakable. Keep illuminating the world with your strength, pursuing your dreams, and reveling in the splendor of motherhood. This is Charisse Walker, bidding you farewell for now. Stay tuned for more empowering conversations on the next episode of the Unbreakable Mompreneurs podcast. Until then, keep shining bright. Signing off with love, Charisse Walker.